Welcome back to another episode of the Infamous Horror Podcast. It is AC and Jay. Jay, god damn it, I'm never going to get that right. But we are here, Infamous Horror Podcast. It threw me off because I'm in a different location than I usually am. I'm in my subterranean lair, we'll call it. You've got the new bunker set up. Do you have a new name for the new studio yet, Jay?
Not yet, no. All I can say is that it's coming along methodically. I guess that's the great word for it, methodically, and it's great to be, here. And, Christmas Eve, the great episode with the Christmas Eve show, AC, and now we're here, and it's about to be 2022. So happy holidays to everyone, and hopefully they had a great one.
Yeah, yes. And how was yours? Did you have a good Christmas? Get everything you wanted and everything?
Yeah, I would say so. For me, Christmas is my favorite holiday. I know everyone loves horror and Halloween, but when you're involved in horror 365 days a year, it's nice to get away from it for one day. And Christmas for me, I love Christmas. Spent it with my family, spent it with my love Susan Decker's family on Christmas Eve, and we had a great time. A lot of gifts, a lot of emotion, a lot of wonderful people to see, and some unexpected surprises beyond gifts. So it was wonderful. How about you, AC?
So, it was good. We actually had a COVID outbreak with my wife's family, so didn't really get to go experience Christmas with them. We just kind of went and picked up gifts out of trunks of cars and things, but it was good otherwise. I mean, I got the I'm still hoping for a late Christmas miracle. If anybody out there is watching and has an extra Hasbro Proton pack, I'm still waiting for that late Christmas miracle. I did not get one of those, unfortunately. But I did get the Plasma series Family That Busts Together set. I think awesome. It's okay now saying that it's Phoebe and Egon. And it was just absolutely amazing to see that and have that. And so it was a good time. The kids had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good food, probably too much good food, and I'm going to pay the price for it in the next coming weeks. But just good times spending with everybody. And just hope you out there also, like you said, had a great holiday, have another upcoming great holiday season with the first of the year, and then all the other holidays that come up throughout the year. Just have a good time with those.
And I couldn't agree more with you. And 2022, you can look at it one of two ways: either 2022, which means that we're in for another 2020 right around the bend, which hopefully we're not. Or you can look at it the way that I like to look at it is it's a new start. We're moving on to a new year, and we're going to work with what we got, and we're going to move forward. We're going to keep moving forward, as Walt Disney said. And Walt Disney might be one of the scariest people that you'll ever really find out things about when it comes to the origins of a lot of the Disney stuff. But nonetheless, I want to give a shout out real quick.
Okay.
All right. Because I've known the folks over at the Horror News Network up in Connecticut for a long time. Christine, Rob, Sean, Larry, and company. And Larry Dwyer and company that is associated with that, and in the CT Cult Classics at the Strand Theater in Seymour, Connecticut, they have at least 6 times a year an amazing respect and love for retro cinema, retro horror cinema, and cult cinema, and they screen a double bill every other month just about at the Strand Theater. And I want to give a shout out because we had a chance to see not only Zombie, but we had a chance to see Demons on the big screen. Oh. And it was amazing. The Italian horror, the gore horror. I had a chance to take Susan to it. Her the first time seeing it. I've seen it many times. Never on the big screen, though. And it was a wonderful holiday screening. And Larry and company does a great job up there with the CT Cult Classics screenings. And I want to give another Terror Threads. I believe that's the correct company, Justin's company. I got me a new hat for Christmas. Faces of Death, a nice trucker cap, a little bit of a military feel to it. And it is fantastic. It was a wonderful time. So I want to give a shout out. If you guys, if you're head up to Connecticut for, a nice weekend, usually it's on Saturday nights, check it out. Not that they need any publicity, AC. The theater,
that's okay.
Even with COVID, it was about 70% filled.
That's
which was awesome. And they're normally sold out. But I wanted to give the props to Larry and company for doing something for years now. But it's a great respect to the classic genre cinema.
That's awesome. So what was Zombie like on the big screen? I like seeing it. Is there still the grit to it, or did they remaster it?
Yeah, the copy we saw, there was that grit to it. I don't want to say it was an original print of it, but it definitely was a little bit of a throwback, and it was awesome to see the zombie and shark fight, and so cool to see, you know, when they're in the jungle, and you know how everything just goes to hell, and you know it was just very, very cool to be able to see it. And I don't get a whole lot of opportunity to go up there because from here in New Jersey, it's like 2.5 hours up to there. So I made it a point to go up there and take Susan on a date because she's amazing. And I will say something about Susan Decker, who is absolutely, I'm so blessed and so lucky to have in my life. You know,
she's standing off screen like with a gun.
No, she's not. No, she's probably listening on the other side of the door though. But you know, one of the things I found today is as we moved in to the new bunker here, it's really crazy how life connects people and how you never realize who you're going to meet in your life. And you think one thing and it turns out to be something else, and vice versa. I love the original Little Shop of Horrors, Rick Moranis. It's one of the greatest, horror musical comedies, however you want to classify it, that has ever been put out on the screen. And, it's one of those that the soundtrack is not available for streaming. You have to get on. Yes, it's not available. I've never found it yet. Never found iTunes. Never found anything. So I was lucky enough to have the CD years back. Guess what she popped on today while we were unpacking? Of all the soundtrack. Exactly. She has it also. She's a keeper then. When you got that, she's a keeper. But I want to give credit and just say, a lot of people are looking at this up and coming year as something that's going to be tough to get through. Look for the little small things and build off of them, because the Little Shop of Horror soundtrack in there makes me feel warm and toasty all over. And it makes me thankful that I found someone to go into the next year with. And as always, feed me.
Speaking of music and horror, I actually have to. You're wearing a Faces of Death hat. You got to remember that epic Faces of Death song from Part 4. Do you remember that during the credits?
Oh God, yeah. The AC. That's what's great about this series. And maybe as we go forward, this is something we can do for an episode, because Faces of Death, for me, from what I remember, was my first horror film that I experienced as a kid.
Really?
Because you got to understand something. And for those watching, I'm sure we have a range of ages that go up and down the board. Probably, most likely, no one younger than in their 20s watches this, but people definitely older than their 40s watches this. But if you're like 35 or younger, or 35 or older, you were part of a generation where you grabbed VHS tapes, horror, porno, cult cinema, and you brought them over with your friends and you sat there and watched them. Well, that's one of the things I always remember. Watching films like The Evil Dead, watching films like Halloween, watch films like Friday the 13th, 976 Evil comes to mind. But Faces of Death for me was my first horror film I watched on VHS, and my first one that I can remember that really, impacted. There might have been another one when I was younger, maybe Universal Monsters, but Faces of Death is what I consider to be my first horror film. And so I have a big cling to that franchise, and I love it. I haven't watched it for a while. Don't start giving me trivia questions about Faces of Death. But I will ask you this, AC, because for me, it was the monkey's brains, the serving of the monkey's brains, where they crack the skull open and then they start scooping. I'll never forget the monkey sitting there. And for those, I don't think this is a spoiler, folks, but it's not real. Okay. So when you see that monkey and they crack it open, it all of a sudden goes dead and they pop off the skull cap. And for me, that stuck in my mind. That still sticks in my mind for 30 plus years now. And it's crazy to even think about that, AC. That's something so terrible, even though it's fake, with Faces of Death. It's something that's really impacted me. And I think that early watching of it, AC, really kind of skewered and jaded the way I saw the world. And when it came to horror and it came to death and it came to life as I've grown up. What about you? What's yours?
Mine, again, I saw Part 4 first. So I always go back to Part 4 because that's my favorite, because it's just so cheesy and so schlocky, but it has the real death in it too. It was the lady who had a basket of puppies under her sink. And then she proceeded to wash and butcher the puppies, supposedly, but you could clearly tell it was just chicken.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm a big dog guy. I love dogs.
Me too.
And just to see somebody butchering a dog for food is weird.
It's hard.
It was a whole cultural stereotype thing they were trying to do there. It wasn't really appropriate. It doesn't really carry well today.
None of them do.
Just the these little fluffy puppies, and here they are. And then all of a sudden, just, here you just chop it on the chopping board. But I do remember the monkey's brains from part one as well. I think everybody does, because then to me, that then translated over to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom when they have that scene from there. And I'm like, is that the same thing? Are they really eating the monkey brains there too? Because I thought it was real for the longest time. My parents they convinced me that all of those things were real, not just the news clips, but all of it was real. It wasn't until I was a little bit smarter that I figured that out.
Same here.
It was. I love Faces of Death. I don't even know if there's anybody that's still around that was involved in the creation of it. But if there is, we should get them. If not, we'll just do an episode and talk about it for sure, because it's definitely impactful.
I'll tell you something about Faces of Death. So the director of Faces of Death, and again, the name escapes me, but when he
wasn't Louis B. Gross or something like that. I know it's not
no. Wait, Stephen comes to mind. Name's Stephen. Nonetheless, the director of Faces of Death, a few years ago, when I was really doing Horror Happens Radio a lot, I guess his agent at the time was attempting to get him around to do interviews pertaining to it, and they wanted over $1,000 per interview. It was a big money. I said, as much as I love Faces of Death, there's no way I'm going to pay that for. I will never pay for an interview for a person. If you don't want to talk to me, there's no reason why I need to talk to you then. I don't care if you're the biggest horror icon in the world. If you're that stuck in the fact that you either that hard up for money, or the fact that you have that big of an ego inflated by the dollar, you don't need me. I'm sorry. Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people, AC, in my life, and you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we might poke around. I might see if there's anybody out there, but we're not paying for an interview.
No way.
There's no way. That's ridiculous.
If you want it, you can interview me and pay me. Then that works.
Yeah, I mean, here's the crazy thing about Faces of Death, and then we'll move on to the other stuff. Mm-hmm. This is like YouTube and live leaks now. I mean, back then it was so shocking and banned in 40 countries or whatever the promotion was. And now it's just like, my kids can watch this on YouTube if they want to, like same kind of stuff. I don't encourage that. There is a video out there. I don't know why I'm sharing this. A live leak video that somebody shared with me years ago called Humpty Dumpty. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was a guy doing cliff diving and he missed. It was doctors doing the surgical procedure to reattach his face. And at one point his face is completely open and the tongue is going, and it's very graphic. That's an image, a real image I will never get out of my mind. At least I always assumed it's real. But the Faces of Death is child's play now almost compared to the stuff
compared to everything
happens
else
every day.
Well, you know what? Real quick, and I remember Rob Zombie talking about this, and Eli Roth talking about this during Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, about films like Henry and The Last House on the Left. How you had to ride on your bike over 4 towns to be able to go to the theater or the drive-in where it was, and it was like a hushed whisper that you were talking about. Oh, you got this tape. Oh man, we've got to watch this. It's so, do we dare watch this? And it's so true. Films of that era, of the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of films that were like that. But that, again, is a conversation for another show.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're moving on. We're going to talk about the year in review this year, what we hope to see next year. Actually, specifically, 3 things we want to see next year and 2 things we don't want to see next year. But we got to cover 2021 first. I mean, it's been a year. It's been a kind of a chaotic, crazy year where the world changed in 2020. There's no denying, not political, not talking about any of that stuff. It changed because of COVID. We've never been in our generation, or at least even my parents, my grandparents, any generation that I can think of that has actually lived through a pandemic like this. I mean, I don't consider bird flu or any of that stuff that we went through.
Right.
But this, it changed everything. And I think we went a little bit more jaded into 2021 with what we see, what we want to see. And I think it changed our habits. It changed our thinking a little bit. And 2021 was just an interesting year in that regard. But overall, what were some things for you, Jay, that happened in 2021? Either personal things, horror related things. What are some things that were like the highlights of your year, the good points of your year?
For me, some of the good points was actually getting out back to festivals. The month of September, I was lucky enough in 2021. I guess you make this a separate one as well. I was lucky enough to become assistant festival director for Horror Hound. I was heading up PR for Horrible Imaginings. For Puff, I was, programming the features lineup. You know, there was a whole bunch of stuff. I started working with and consulting with the Highlands Horror Film Festival. And the reason why I bring up those four is because the month of September was, for me, great to be able to get back out on the road and fly and actually travel somewhere. Because basically about 10 months out of the year, I did nothing. And I won't, as much as I missed it, I was okay with it. I was okay with not doing it, because one thing you folks know about me is that from 2016 to 2019, I traveled to about 20 to 30 festivals a year. And so I was on the road all the time. And in 2020, when things went down, I was good with staying home. I was good with not doing anything. And I was really happy with just, getting to kind of realign myself on a lot of levels. And my life changed so much at the beginning of 2020, AC. I mean, everyone has changes, but I came in with very traumatic changes, and it helped me to kind of change my life, and all for the best. I've been very lucky, very blessed for the most part, knocking wood over there, when it comes to it. But for me, getting back out to festivals and being a part of in-house festivals like Horrible Imaginings with Miguel Rodriguez, and the Highlands Horror Film Festival with Rob and Alex, with Philadelphia Unnamed and Horror Hound, where people were coming out to Horror Hound weekend, and they must have had 25,000 people. And from what I understand, nothing in the way of a spreading event, nothing in the way of any sort of big cases. Everything was done right and protective with the festival convention, and it was absolutely awesome. So that was a big thing for me. So what about you?
Amazing. Festivals, I would agree. I only went to one festival this year. I'll be honest. Days of the Dead. I went to with my daughter and her boyfriend. But I had one of my most meaningful experiences of the year. I've met Bill Moseley dozens of times. I know I've shared this story with you. I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast or not. But my daughter's boyfriend, he lost both his parents, and actually watched another of his friends pass away in front of him. So he's had a very traumatic life, very hard go of it. This year, not only did he find out he was going to be adopted, which was really cool.
Wow.
He wanted to meet Bill Moseley, because Bill is a guy, him and his mom used to watch, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects before her passing. And, I said, sure, I'll take you down. And I didn't think we were going to have the money to, have him meet Bill or anything. But I'm like, you know what? There's the lines for the people I want to meet are too long, or they've canceled. So I'm going to take him. I'm just going to take him over there. And I've never seen a reaction from, I've seen a lot of celebrity fan reactions. I used to play Sergeant Kabuki Man for Troma at some of their conventions. So I've seen a lot of weird fan interactions, but he was up there, and he was just, I saw him start to just slightly twitch. He was just slowly shaking, and him and Bill just had a conversation. You know how Bill is. He's just so engaged. He's such a kind man. I don't even think he knew, obviously, anything that was going on. Bill mentioned to him, or he mentioned to Bill, he said, I used to watch your films with my mom, and before she passed. And Bill kind of just sat back and just got a little bit of a look in his eye. And he's like, well, if it makes you feel any better, your mom and Sid are probably watching movies together right now. And I'm gonna cry. It was just really emotional to me, because it changed, him in a way. We're jaded. We've met a lot of people. We've talked to a lot of people.
Right.
But for him, he walked away from that, and he had to go somewhere and put his head between his legs and actually stop shaking, because it was just such an intense emotional moment for him. And I'm glad that I got to be a part of it. He's not been a part of our group of people, our family for very long, but he's a good kid. And I was so grateful to see that. That was one of my best moments of 2021. Another, moment of 2021, this is a little outside of horror.
Okay.
My son, he's never walked properly. He was born with some disabilities, and this year he got his leg fixed. He was able to walk correctly. The doctor said at some point he'll run. But 6 weeks after, he was made the Team AEW Bat Boy for the All Elite Wrestling softball game.
And, congratulations!
Thank you. Thank you to Colt Cabana as well. Colt Cabana set this whole thing up. Has been just the best hero my son could ever have. And just they told him, out there on the field, unbeknownst to any of us, hey, you want to run for this guy? And it was JD Drake from the Wingmen. And of course, my son Sean's like, yeah, absolutely. And he hit the ball, and I just saw my son take off. I'm like, he's running. Look at him run. And I missed him run to first and second. And of course, I kind of figured they were going to let him score. I didn't think they were going to get out. But the video I've posted, and I can share it if people want to see it. DM me, I'll share it with you. It's on YouTube. Even just look up AEW Bat Boy, and he ran his first, not only for the first time in his life, he's 12 years old, ran in his first home run in a baseball game, which every kid should experience. And it was in front of a stadium full of people. Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, cheering him on. The entire AEW locker room cleared the bench to celebrate with him afterwards and started chanting MVP with the stadium. That is the moment of my year. Above anything and all things, I love horror, but that moment cannot be topped this year for me. Do you have a moment that was kind of outside of horror, something that really touched with you?
Well, yeah, I would say so. I mean, I've been very blessed and very lucky that, Susan Decker and I have grown together since the pandemic, because we met during the pandemic. We fell in love during the pandemic, and things have been wonderful moving towards it. And we've had our bumps and bruises, just like everyone else. That's part and parcel of it. But she's been a great support to me as, my family goes ahead and is dealing with personal stuff. So it's been wonderful for her to be there and support for me. And one of the things that I loved doing this year, and I'm going to give credit to her, and I hate to say this because there may be other moments, AC, but for some reason, they just don't tick as much as this. And this kind of trails over back into horror, because horror is such a big part of what I do. And when we talk about the next thing, I'll send separate, but we were in Brooklyn at the Second Chance Film Festival, Susan Decker and I, and she was coming with me because at the time she lived in a different place in Brooklyn. Now she's living with her mom part of the time and living part of the time here with me. And we're sitting there at the theater, and within the frame, my student film is going to screen there, which is amazing, right? So no one really could come out, but her family made it the point to come out and support it, which is awesome, right? To have a great support system. Her family is amazing. Absolutely love them. We had a great time again this year on Christmas Eve. So I'm sitting there with her, and we're taking pictures. All of a sudden, I see this crew like the Warriors. You know what I'm saying? The Warriors. Warriors, come out and play. And it's her family walking down with in the frame T-shirts.
That's awesome.
Mom's in the wheelchair because she fell and fractured her leg, and Susan's brother and sister and Susan's now fiance, Jeremy. Congratulations to them. They got engaged over Christmas Eve.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And they all came out in the shirts, and they walked down the street in Brooklyn like they were bosses. And Susan surprised me with the T-shirt, and I had the whole front row of them with the T-shirts on. And my aunt and my mom and my cousin showed up because we shot it on my aunt's property, and she helped produce it with it as well as Susan did. And it was just amazing. And so, it kind of trails back into horror. But for me, being able to go back to school and see the success of the short film play festivals, AC, and now writing a script for a new one is something that has been really a highlight of this year, because I've been able to grow in a different direction when it comes to what I do now. Awesome. And it makes me a better person, a better professional, and hopefully a better creative figure going forward. So that's another one for me.
Awesome. That's so great to hear. Like, this is why we're just a big horror family. And if you've got something you'd like to share that happened in your year, let us know on Facebook, facebook.com/infamous horror, the Infamous Horror podcast page, or on Patreon. You can see the link down below, patreon.com/infamous horror. Talk to us. Tell us what your experiences are too. We want to share some of these. And, people get involved, especially over the holidays. So we haven't had a lot of comments over the holidays or anything. People have got their own thing, but we know you're watching. You're out there. We want to hear you.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be, as AC said, it doesn't have to be horror. For example, another amazing moment in my life this year was the fact that I'm moving forward with the retro swing documentary about the New York City swing scene in the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of people think it's a fad and it's crap. There's a lot of personal stories and a lot of people that never got any sort of credit or never had their story told. And they, that was their livelihood. It was more than a hobby. It was their livelihood. It was their life. It was the life of people for a good 5-year period. So getting a chance to talk to some of those people and reconnecting during COVID and after, AC, has been amazing. So that's another highlight for me actually outside of horror for a change.
I'll give you another one for me
Please.
that was in horror real quick. So I talked a lot about Hail of the Deadites,
Right.
the Evil Dead fan documentary about the fans of the Evil Dead, made entirely by fans for fans, not using a second of filmed footage from the Evil Dead films.
Yes,
Very unique
all
in a
fans.
documentary. I had a chance to be a part of that. My son Ash passed away a decade ago this past November, and this year, last year, it was released finally, and that's how you and I met, the
Yep.
Philadelphia Name Film Festival. And then this year they gave us the news it was going to be on Shudder USA.
Yes.
And to me, that's the home of horror right now. We don't have FearNet anymore. We've got Shudder, and I'm grateful for Shudder. I'm grateful for them allowing it on there. I think it's Scream Factory that did the distribution deal. I'm not sure who does the deals behind the scenes. And of course, Stephen Martin from some of they're the bosses here at the Infamous Horror Podcast, a couple of the bosses. And for his 10 years that he's been gone. And then the world gets to know about him. So
yes. And
I'm getting really emotional this episode. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's the holidays, my friend, and it's a new year, and it's a lot of happy. These are happy emotions that are coming out, which is so important when it comes to the fact of this community, because one of the great things about horror is that we live vicariously through these films and these people that we see on the screen. And to be a part of your story, AC, and to be a part of that documentary, and I know because I've watched it like 8 times. So I've watched it a lot, folks, because I programmed it, I watched it, I interviewed a lot. I interviewed Stephen Martin about it. I talked to AC. Shout out to Bree as well. I'm throwing out to her among others. But it's incredible, and it's a great tribute to your son, and it's great, just amazing. So nothing to be ashamed to with those tears, man. It's well deserved, and it's a great celebration. I am very proud of you.
Year. Thank you. It's just an amazing. I've had a lot of personal moments this year, that are kind of sort of horror related, or adjacent to horror, or adjacent to Hollywood, or all that stuff. I actually got married this year too. I haven't really talked about that a lot.
Congratulations!
I know. Back in May, we got married in a cemetery. Do you know the historical significance of that?
No.
So back in times of epidemics and pandemics, there were a lot of people who would get married in cemeteries, actually, because of, first of all, it was, a clean place to be, and they would like to be around their family who had passed away. Now, we didn't have any family who had passed away, at least my wife did not. But we found a large concrete cross here in the town we live in, and right along the river, and paid somebody to come out and perform a really weird wedding ceremony for us. And people still, I've actually had people ask me if I actually have a wife, because I don't mention her name on the podcast a lot. I'm going to do this one time, because this will probably be the only episode unless she ever comes on. I married a former adult film actress. It's kind of hard to believe, but Riley Gray was who I married, the original Riley Gray, not the one who stole the name years later. There's a copyright thing going on there. We're trying to get that settled out. But she's great, and just like you, we've had our ups and downs, and we're working on some things. But just one of those unique moments in life. You see somebody in film, and then you're married to them. So, but it was a great ceremony, great time, and all focused on death and horror, and pretty cool. Pretty
damn cool, dude. Love it.
Moving on, we've got a lot of things that we did this year. We can figure just talk about the entire year, but let's talk about some things. Let's give out real quick some infamous horror awards, if we shall, for some of our favorite things we saw in horror this year. Let's start with Jay. Did you have a favorite horror actor or actress this year that you just thought stood above the pack for any reason?
Well, it's interesting, because for me, I don't tend to generally, unless it's a film festival, look at the individual performances, because it's more about the overall project for me. But as I thought a lot about it, AC, I came up with both a male and female performer. And I know nowadays, that line is kind of intertwined together. But for me, I've always believed that there should be a distinguishing aspect to male and female performances, because the characters, the aspect of what the subject matter might be, a lot of different factors play into it. So there is two. My problem is I'm the most likely, and my apologies right now, most likely I'm going to butcher their names. So I want to apologize for that right now. I'm going to do my best, I promise you. But you'll understand why when we get to that. So what did you want from me?
Well, who is your? Let's give your top horror actor for the year. Who is your top actor?
It's interesting because it's going to attach when we later on talk about our favorite films of the year. And spoiler alert, I have not even finished watching all of 2021's films yet. I usually go a month before I catch up on everything, and I watch everything during the month of December into early January. But an actor who really caught my attention back in 2019 when I was working with Horrible Imaginings was on a film called Minor Premise. And basically the film is about a scientist, a neurologist, I think a neurologist. No, it's not a neurologist, neurobiologist. Anyway, he studies the neurosis. Anyway, so the film's all about this doctor, this scientist who experiments on himself and basically fractures his personality into 10 individual personalities, how our mind is set up. And every 6 minutes, a new one appears and then goes away. And then the next one takes over, next one takes over, and next one takes over.
Wow.
That's what the whole movie's about, basically. So the actor who took on that role since 2019 has been one of the best performances that I have seen. His name is Sayath Siddharthan. Yeah, I think that's correct. Sayath Siddharthan. He's an Indian actor, but his portrayal of the lead character and the son who is trying to go ahead and take on his father's legacy and his work at this university really, really was amazing, because he was able to take on the 10 different parts of his personality and make it really 10 different distinguishable characters. Because you remember with James McAvoy in Split, it was 23 or 26 different personalities.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, Minor Premise, it's really interesting because, it's rooted in science, where the 10 different parts of your personality, the structure of your mind and what makes you is broken up for this character, and they're fighting each other as you go through the events. It's kind of like Memento meets Split. So we'll get more to it, but he was the actor that stands out to me as one of the best actors I saw with releases in 2021, because Minor Premise came out this year on a wide release.
Okay, I'm actually going to give a little bit of a different spin on this. Yours is more indie. We talked about this a little bit. Mine's going to be a little bit more mainstream because I have the kids and I've had a lot going on this year. I haven't had a chance to watch as much. But the actor of the year for me is an actor who I've seen him for years. You've seen him for years. He creeps in and out of roles, and you're like, okay. It's that guy, Clancy Brown. I love me some Clancy Brown. He's killing it on Dexter as Kirk Caldwell right now. I'm actually, as soon as we're done tonight, I've got to finish some things up with my kids, and I'm sitting down to watch Dexter, and I can't wait. But he's killed it in that as the mortuary in the mortuary collection as the Undertaker. He was fantastic. Just that low voice, and I just love it. And even that 20 years later, still killing as Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob. Let's be honest.
He's so good, man, and he's got such a presence about him. I mean, he's a looming figure, but at the same time, he can be so gentle in the way he phrases words and he approaches people. There's a kindness to him, but a fierceness at the same time.
I'm gonna take some hits for this, I'm sure, from some Phantasm fans. But I think if they ever remake Phantasm, he is the only person that can take over for Angus Scrimm. The only person.
I can imagine, and I think this is something we talked about before. I remember back when Wizard had a magazine, and they used to do the Dreamcasts for the comic book movies before comic book movies were even the thing. And they always put in there, and this is something stuck with me all the time, about Clancy Brown playing Sabretooth. He would have been phenomenal as Sabretooth. The voice, his physical makeup, the aspect of the makeup on, oh God, it would have been an incredible AC.
Yeah, Clancy Brown, my choice for actor of the year. And again, these are just unofficial awards. Who do you guys think? If you don't agree with us, you want to tell us that we're wrong, again, Facebook.com, Infamous Horror. Go and tell us we're wrong, because we like to hear that we're wrong sometimes.
And don't forget the Patreon down below, because when you watch the Patreon, you see these different segments before. You have a chance to comment even before we get to the next week's episode. So we want to hear from you.
Yes.
And yes, it's neuroscientist. I was right. Neuroscientist, folks. Minor Premise, neuroscientist. Thank you.
There it is.
I feel better.
Jay, who was your actress of the year? Who did you have for again? This is all of films that we've seen this year, that have come out this year. It does not mean any disrespect to anyone else.
No,
we just we can't watch every movie.
No, we can't. And you know what? Real quick, minor premises on Hulu. I just wanted to say that because the best actress, the film is on Shudder actually, which you brought up before. It's the film The Medium, and it's all about this shamanism in Thailand and how these two sisters, one is chosen to take on this role as the shaman for her village, and she pushes off. She doesn't want it, so her sister becomes the shaman of the village. And so the family lineage is, I guess you could say, stained. I don't think that gives away too much. And the lead actress who plays, I think the character is Nim. I'm pretty sure it's Nim. Okay. Basically, her name. Ready for this? All right, I'm gonna attempt. So again, my apologies to everyone out there for the pronunciation. All right, Narala Glumman Gopek. Golpek. Yes. Okay. Narala Glumman Gopek. I'm going to show you the name so everyone sees it. Can you see it?
I can't see it.
Oh, I can't show it to you.
I still can't see it.
Anyway, too bright. If you haven't seen The Medium, there's a lot of films out there about possession and exorcism. This one was generally frightening. And Thailand really does. I mean, a lot of the Asian cinema, Asian horror finds ways to frighten us that we didn't know was there. Stylized, atmosphere, a lot of their myth, lore, and urban legends come to life. And this film that takes on the aspect of an exorcism, it's from the people who also did The Wailing as well, producers of The Wailing. It's generally terrifying, and it does what great horror should always do, AC. No matter what happens, it's not going to turn out good. No matter what happens. Awesome. And this film pays off on this. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. It starts off a little bit slow, but once it gets going, it's absolutely terrifying. Watch it with the lights off. But the lead actress who played in that film, Narala, I believe is her first name. Now that I'm looking at it closer, she was phenomenal in it, taking on the aspect of the possessed entity, moving forward and not just being some side piece that, sits there with makeup on. She actually embodied and took on that character and really added layers and depth to really could be a very tired kind of character that we've seen in a lot of different films, especially here in the States.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out. What was the name of the movie again? I'm writing these down and making notes as we go.
The Medium. The Medium. Yes.
So those my actress of the year is not from... mine's from, again, mainstream, and this one is probably not going to shock anyone that's ever heard me talk about movies, but it might, because as an actor myself, I typically don't like the performances of children. They haven't had enough time to learn. Not that they can't be good. They just typically haven't had enough time to learn. McKenna Grace, God damn you. You are amazing in everything you are in. And I can't explain how this young woman knows just how to create a role like that at her age. Yeah, I'm of the belief you can learn acting, but you can't be taught acting, if that makes sense. I can teach you things and methods and everything, but unless it connects up here, you're not going to be able to get that out on the screen. And really the secret of acting is you're just playing like you played when you were a kid, just with lines and parameters you have to stay within.
What was the project from her? What's the project from her?
Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I had a feeling, yes.
Yep, Ghostbusters Afterlife, when she played Phoebe Spangler. Again, I'm a Ghostbusters fan. I mean, clearly got rocking the Egon shirt today. But she embodied that role. And if you actually watch the role, not just because I'm a Ghostbusters fan, if you look at her portrayal and go back and watch the 84 and 89 Ghostbusters films and watch the actual acting of Harold Ramis, there's little subtle things that she's doing that there's no way she could have picked up on without just getting it. She's been the little girl in Captain Marvel. She's been so many roles over the past couple of years, and she's just grown immensely. And I don't understand it. I'm jealous of it. And at the same time, she wins my Infamous Horror Actress of the Year award because that was fantastic. That's not to say that all the women in this Ghostbusters. No, I'm real quick. I'm going to say this. There's all the controversies coming back again about Ghostbusters because of the box set and Paul Feig running his mouth again. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But this was a female-led movie. There were 3 strong female leads. You had Phoebe, who was, sort of the nerdy girl, I
Right.
connected with her as an old man because that's the kid that I was. It doesn't matter that she was a woman. Callie Coon, or Carrie Coon is Callie. Again, a fantastic mom playing the role of every mom struggling, trying to figure out how to connect with your kids if you're a single mom. I was a single father for a while, so I understand that in some aspects. And then at the same time, you've got Celeste O'Connor, who I would have loved to have seen more of in Ghostbusters Afterlife, one of my gripes about the film. But well, again, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But three strong female leads, Ghostbusters fans turned out in droves. So I think Paul Feig's argument needs to go away for good.
Yeah,
Please.
I think so too. And I have not seen the film. I will see it when it comes out on VOD or Redbox. I'm looking forward to it because I haven't seen a whole lot of films with it. I had a chance to see Spider-Man, absolutely loved it. It
Yep.
was phenomenal without giving anything away. And I got to tell you something. It's funny because you see Alfred Molina when he sat down with Jamie Foxx and Willem Dafoe being honest, but at the same kind of tongue in cheek. Why did you do it? The money. He's not wrong because the money was probably gigantic for it, and he's a thespian. I mean, he is really an incredible actor. But he was wonderful as Doc Ock. He was absolutely wonderful, and you appreciate, even though it's not as big a role as you wished it could have been. AC, he was just amazing, and I certainly hope he comes back with Doc Ock because now you have more layers with that character, which is wonderful.
Yes. I think that's like a top pick for movie of the year, non-horror movie of the year for both of us.
Yeah.
If not the number one of the top.
I agree.
And then Willem Dafoe, when you don't think that his original Green Goblin can get better,
Yeah.
it gets immensely better. And the only thing that would make it better to me is not a lot of prosthetics, but just something like where he takes a goblin serum and his face slightly transforms. So we still get the Willem performance, but there's just that comic goblin look. Not as extreme as what they tested back in 2002, but oh my gosh, Willem Dafoe. And this won't spoil anything, I don't think. There's a scene when one character and him are getting into it, obviously Spider-Man and Goblin. And he's just getting punched in the face and he's just smiling and laughing. And it's just like, oh God, that guy's creepy. But that was a good movie. Jay, what is of the movies you've seen, what is your favorite movie of the year, best picture of the year, if you were giving the Oscar?
If I was given the Oscar, and I sat down because I tend to put my list together and I tend to have like 30 on my list because I firmly believe in the fact that, you know, I get people who do top tens and I got all the faith in the world in what they're doing, but there's so many great films that need recognition, especially in horror. But for me, Minor Premise really was my favorite film of the year. I loved it. It's not really known a whole lot. It's not mainstream. You can find it on Hulu. I was shocked it didn't get more of a run on the film festival circuit. It's sci-fi, it's horror, it's dark psychosis, and again, it's about a neuroscientist whose father's legacy is taken over by his son, and he goes ahead and basically it's a mad scientist kind of trope where he basically experiments on himself and breaks his personality up into 10 segments, and every 6 minutes a new segment takes over him. And so he's trying, certain segments are trying to stop him, certain segments are aiding him. So he's all these different 10 characters. And then you have a wonderful female lead in it who's his love interest and also a peer of his who's there, who's going through a struggle. You have all this different people from the university who's trying to stop him. And basically the film takes you down a rabbit hole. Sorry to use a cliche, but it takes you down a rabbit hole where, yes, it's a complex narrative without a doubt. But once you sit back and watch it, how they edit it, the visual aspects they add to it, the use of sound in it, the story, it's a very complete movie. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And especially if you're into neuroscience. And I enjoy psychology. I enjoy behavior management. So for me, it has a little more of a connection to me. But you don't have to love that to sit down and watch a quality film. And this is a quality film that deserves to be watched. So for me, you know, favorite, that's for me is a favorite one that's more horror based.
Yeah, you've made me definitely more interested in that. I have Hulu, so I'm going to go check it out as soon as I can.
Please do.
Yeah, I liked Split. You know, you compared it to Split. I really liked Split, but if this goes deeper and takes it to a deeper level, I have to see it because I love watching actors who put on a clinic when they do a show. And if this guy can do a character every few minutes.
It's interesting, AC, because when you think about character, maybe character isn't the right word for it, because I think about it, being able to take on your persona, that particular part of your brain, whether it's the aspect of your basic sexual component, the idea of the empathetic part of your brain, the idea of more of the ego of what you have, to go down and break down your mind like that, and to see him take it on with no visual aids. There's no visual effects when it comes to this. There's no practical effects. It's his performance that stands out, and just it blew me away. And the film blew me away and has stuck with me for a year and a half.
Man, I cannot wait to see that. Mine, again, not going to be any surprise to anybody who's heard me talk in the entire year. This year was the year of Ghostbusters for me. I started my year on January 7th at Harold Ramis's grave, paying tribute to the man himself. I ended my year in New York City, seeing the locations. And, you and I sat there and had lunch at Central Park, just within eye shot of Dana Barrett's building. And just some good things came, but Ghostbusters Afterlife to me was not the film that fans wanted 100%. I'll say that much. I think to me, the Max Landis treatment that came out a couple years ago, did you ever see what he had written about it? So he got a really good treatment. And it turns out Max Landis had some issues, so we're not going to get into that. But if you can still find his treatment anywhere online, which there might be a few places to find it, it was a beautiful story that included everybody, included comedic legends, bringing them in and all these things, but still was led by females. Again, nobody has a problem with a female-led Ghostbusters. There are sexists out there, but they're definitely the minority. This whole thing with the sexism in Ghostbusters was blown up by Paul Feig and Amy Pascal, and I still hold them responsible for actually receiving photos of my kids' school and my kids at their bus stop during that time, because I went on a podcast then and said, hey, guys, I don't want to see this movie. I think the trailer looks terrible. I don't think it's the right tone, and I don't like two of the main cast members. Didn't say anything hateful or sexist or any of that garbage. And I literally got harassed, even just really expressing my opinion, got harassed last week about Ghostbusters 2016 online. But it helped me develop anxiety because of how I was getting attacked. And I'll say this is a hill I will die on, and I'll get into why I think this is the best film of the year for me. If your particular belief structure or ism, it puts yourself above anyone else. No matter what's happened in the past, if it puts you above anyone else, that's bullying. That's not empowerment. That's absolutely bullying. There are, for that, there's great feminists out there who have fought for years for equal rights. And the ones that make that whole thing, what people see it as sometimes as a political statement, are the ones who are trying to make themselves above anyone else. I don't believe that's right in any way, shape, or form. We all should be equal. Gay, straight, men, woman, trans, I don't care. Equality is what it's all about. And Paul Feig and Amy Pascal running their mouths caused me some personal trauma in my life. And I'm so glad to have Ghostbusters Afterlife now, because we do have a female-led film. We have something that people enjoy. And it's a continuation of the legacy. It also puts a nice bow on it. If we never get another Ghostbusters film, as a fan that's been there since day one, I'm content. I'm absolutely content. It tells the story of the Spengler family going out to, after Egon's passing, to try and find out who he was, and it actually kind of makes Egon look like a jerk for part of the movie. But you'll kind of get that later on, why he did what he did, and then some of the things he did. To see the guys again suited up, and to see the new generation there as well, and be able to watch it with the new generation of fans, my kids. There is nothing better than that. Plus, Jason Reitman as a director and Gil Kenan as a screenwriter. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful direction, beautiful writing. There were some moments I think there could have been some more character development for me personally. But in the 2-hour film that it was, Jason Reitman creates this beautiful film that not only pays tribute to Ghostbusters, that not only continues and wraps up the original story, but at the same time, it gives you that feel of every epic 80s movie. There were cues of the Goonies in there, and E.T., and not so much Back to the Future, but kind of tonally some things from Back to the Future. And you watch it and you just invoke all these memories. I know you're not big on nostalgia all the time, but for me to get those feelings, that same feeling that I had as a kid watching movies, that to me sealed the deal for me. That made me believe again, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
And I'm glad that you did. And it's not that I don't dislike nostalgia. I love nostalgia. In fact, I was watching last night or yesterday, Christmas Vacation and Elf. I love the nostalgia of the holiday films, and that you could ask me all about it. Scrooge is one of my favorite films of all time, if not my favorite film of all time. But that's right there is what I think was wrong with 2016. There is no issue. I have no issue with the female-led Ghostbusters film. What I have an issue with is how much disrespect is given to the people who laid the foundation, and having them as side characters with no connection whatsoever with the universe.
Absolutely.
That's what really bothers me about it. If you would have went ahead and I didn't like Chris Helmsworth as the stupid secretary guy. I really didn't. That was one of the things I didn't like that. But if you would have had a team of women who became the Ghostbusters for the reasons they did, and they came upon the variety of different cast and characters, and they gave something, even if it was just a cameo, I would have been cool with that. And that's something right now I look at more and more and more, AC, is the fact that, and this was done with WandaVision, we don't want to have Doctor Strange at the end of WandaVision. Why? Because we don't want to show, and this was said, this is not my opinion. This was said that we don't want a man to save her. Well, I got news for you. What's the reasoning now that in the Multiverse of Madness, she's going to be a character in the Multiverse of Madness? I just don't understand. I think it's more selective choice on where we can stand up for what we believe in rather than common sense. There's no reason why Dan Aykroyd had to be a cab driver who said the line, "I ain't afraid of no ghosts." He sounds like a freaking fool. He does. Bill Murray is the psychic. Give me a break. Please stop. Please stop. It just doesn't work. Okay? Go with what fits and what's right. And that's why I think Ghostbusters Afterlife, I could see why you're emotional about it, because you had all the beats that were connected to the franchise. And that's the important thing with it. And there's, again, nothing sexist about it, nothing hateful about it, no, nothing about it. It's just common sense that if it fits, go with it. If it doesn't fit in the story, and maybe people should take editing classes and screenwriting classes, because I knew this before, but it was reinforced even more, AC, over the last year. If you have to kill your darling sometime, but if you don't and it works, then you leave it in. And that's something that was needed for it. And that's something why. But you know what? Who knows? Who knows? So.
Yeah, and again, 2016 has its fans. I'm not trying to take anything away from those fans. I personally have not seen the film and will not see the film, not because of the female cast, because of what happened to me. I literally developed clinical anxiety. We're going to talk about that kind of thing a little bit later. We've got a few more things to get to before then, and we're going to go a little bit long on this episode. But I blame Paul Feig because he inflamed that very much so, saying, because he realized very quickly, and Sony realized very quickly, this isn't a movie that most of the people wanted to see. It's not just men. There were women out there. You can see their comments online. And had he just done a few things different, like you said, made it, why wasn't it Janine or Dana's team? Why couldn't it have been their team? I would have loved to see Sigourney Weaver busting ghosts. I was hoping she would suit up this time around. But just don't make it about something. The best can. Here's the other thing. This is another soapbox moment, but I'll stand on it and then step down. We don't need to shoehorn a certain gender or type of person into an existing role, because that's only going to create controversy.
Right.
Create new, strong characters. Look at Ironheart, Iron Man.
Exactly.
New, strong characters. Don't, everybody was upset about Riri Williams in the comic books becoming Iron Man. She didn't become Iron Man. She became Ironheart. It's a new character. And Stan Lee, when he needed a strong black character for comics, he developed Black Panther. Right. And look at the good that's done. Develop characters. Don't just feed us recycled garbage, Hollywood.
Exactly.
Please. Exactly. Okay, soapbox over. I'll step down.
No, and you know what? I'm glad you bring it up, because with the end of Hawkeye, Marvel did something. And again, if it wasn't established in the comic books, I wonder if it would have been a controversy allowing Kate Bishop to become Hawkeye. Because Hawkeye is not the most popular character in the world, but he is a cornerstone character for many decades in the Marvel Universe.
Absolutely.
And she became Hawkeye in the comic books and long before this series. But if that was not there, would that be an issue? So it's really interesting how perception really tells a lot of the story when it comes to it. I mean,
but again, we're all for equality here at the Infamous Horror Podcast. Absolutely. We're not trying to down anybody. We just want strong characters. We want good movies, and we want some bad movies that we can make fun of from time to time as well. So moving on from that.
One of my favorite movies of all time, You're Next, Sharni Vincent. One of the greatest. You want to call her a final girl. She's a Terminator, folks. One of my favorite female-led horror films of all time, folks. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's up, AC?
So we got again, we're running a little bit long here. We've had some great conversation, but let's talk about the real quick 3 things we want to see next year and 2 things we don't. This is our top 5 for this week. So 3 things we want to see for next year and 2 things we don't. Jay, what do you have on your list? We're gonna let you do your list. 5 to 1.
Let's go back and forth because for me, things keep shuffling through my mind of what I see, what I want to see, and what I don't want to see. One of the things I do want to see, and I didn't put them in order of importance. I just did it as things. I want to see Jordan Peele's new film, Nope. I want to see Jordan Peele's new film because I was not a fan of Get Out. I really wasn't at the beginning. And just like you're next, after watching it, after reading the screenplay, after writing a paper on the screenplay, I've grown an appreciation for the talent he is. And he was always amazing talent. But that film has kind of grown on me, and I see it from kind of a different lens than I did when it came out X number of years ago. So I want to see Nope because I really enjoyed Us. I saw it at South by Southwest, and I want to see what Nope will offer and to see if Jordan Peele can continue, taking horror in a direction that though is familiar as well as breaking new ground. Because The Twilight Zone, I'm sorry, folks, canceled as quick as it came out. So what does that say about Jordan Peele taking on an IP that is really something that's been established? He's got to find a balance of the traditional and his own voice. And The Twilight Zone obviously wasn't. So we'll see what Nope is.
Okay. Fair enough. For me, I actually want to hear news on a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot with Elijah Wood and Kevin Bacon. Here's my brief pitch. Okay, there's a way to get Robert in here, and you change the story at the same time, but keep it the same. Everybody knows the mythos of all the canceled scripts and the Fred Heads cult and all this stuff. What if Freddy was treated like a real life serial killer, like with Murderabilia, like you have now with the popular serial killers? I have some upstairs in my house. What if he was treated like a real serial killer, and they think there's a copycat, but it's actually Robert Englund as Freddy, knowing his power is running out. The dream demons are turning on him because he hasn't had a good kill in so many years. And by the end of the movie, you turn it into whoever is imbued with the spirit of the dream demons, or the Fred Head cult does something there. Something on that. I think I would like to see that personally. I think Elijah Wood and Kevin Bacon would be great for it. I've heard Robert Englund even say he wants Kevin Bacon to be Freddy, but I think that's the switch. You make Elijah Freddy because I think he's a much creepier actor than Kevin Bacon.
I agree with you on that, and kind of tongue in cheek about it. I think it's an interesting idea to say the least. And if there was ever a time, AC, for it, it's now because of how they handled Tony Todd with Candyman. There is a perfect doorway for Robert Englund to be a part of it, but not be the full focus of the film and bridge it to something else. So I agree with you on that. It's a pretty interesting concept for. I love Elijah Wood and Kevin Bacon. Yeah. I think they would be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what Macon Blair and Elijah Wood do for the Toxic Avenger. So.
Well, maybe I'll talk about that here in a minute. What do you got for your next one?
Well, let's go with something I don't want to see.
Okay.
So I just watched Hawkeye, and I really enjoyed Hawkeye.
Okay.
The first 5 episodes of Hawkeye. I don't want to see Disney take characters like the Kingpin and make them martyrs and real easy targets. For those who don't know and don't read comic books or are just getting to the party now, or haven't watched the Netflix Daredevil series, if the Kingpin ripped that car door off the hinges, the person inside there would be dead. But because it's a Disney series, he sounds like he's going through a therapy session talking to her. Okay? I don't want to see these darker characters get the Disney treatment if you can't do things right. I don't want to see the Punisher come out and be someone who is, if you want to do that, then find the other 95% of the characters who aren't dark and build series around them. Or make it where it's not the Netflix characters where you've already established the Kingpin and the Punisher and all that. You want to take Luke Cage and do that? Sounds good. Because you know what? He's not a dark character. But all dark characters, I don't want to see him become Disney-fied and make it where it's instead of being dark and gritty and something that we're afraid of, something you should be afraid of, they become Bambi and they're afraid of their own little shadow. I don't want that. So I want to see the next range of phase 4 characters, both on TV and screen. I want to see something that's a little more grittier, because you have the Deadpool franchise now. And I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of upset people if Deadpool 3 comes out and it's really whitened down. Yeah. All right. And what I mean by that is that it's really, really, really clean. It's really, really, it's not anything that we've seen before. So I don't want to see the Disney effect on a lot of these more grittier and R-rated projects if you're going to do that.
Yeah, they tried the re-edit of Deadpool 2 into a PG-13 movie. For me personally and my family, did not work.
No.
So Disney, I know you're not listening, but hey, give it a shot. Do something gritty. Walt would love it. Trust us.
Yeah, and you, real quick, I'll tell you something. You're willing to see Kingpin throw around a little girl, but yet Kingpin can't be someone who is fierce. You've changed his location, his aura, everything. And I'll tell you something. The last episode of Hawkeye was not very good. I'm sorry. It wasn't. The first 5, I really enjoyed. I know it's a Christmas series. I know there's a happy ending to it, but you got to give me a little bit more than what you're doing. So.
Okay. Fair enough. One thing I don't want to see next year, and this is something I've not wanted to see every year, and it always happens. I am tired of, just because a movie or a series comes out and it does well, it doesn't always need a sequel.
Right.
Does not always need a sequel. Case in point, and this is a non-horror example, 13 Reasons Why. The first season of that on Netflix I thought was phenomenal. It was a good examination of the hell of high school and the bullying and how bullying can take an effect in different aspects. And I thought, they've done like 3 or 4 seasons now. It just watered down the story so much, made the original girl look like, quite frankly, a skank at times, which defeats the purpose. She was the victim. It really bothered me. In horror, do we need 6 million Saw movies or 6 million Paranormal Activity movies? No, the first one is fine. That's all we need. Let's walk away and do something else. Give that director a chance, or that writer a chance, to create, again, something new. Give us something else. Now, there's certain movies that are meant to be stories. Adam Green's Hatchet comes to mind. Those first 3 films are one solid story that he had envisioned the whole time. He just couldn't film them all at once because he didn't have the funds for it. But that's okay if you've got a plan, if you've got a trilogy or something planned. But don't just keep giving us sequels to give us sequels and milk our pocketbooks, because at some point we're going to stop and be like, remember when this was good?
Right.
We don't want that. So that's one thing I don't want to see in 2022. Something
I do want to see in 2022. You know what I want to see in 2022? I want to see how, and this is going to be a little bit more of a technical side of film, or the release of film. I want to see if we can find a balance where films are able to have smaller windows. What I mean by that, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the time between theatrical release to VOD is called a window. And when you look at this, they tried to shoehorn everything into VOD when COVID was at the height of it. And let's knock on wood and hope that was the height of it. But the point being is that films like Tenet, and Tenet was, I'm not a fan of Tenet even by a little bit. It's confusing. It's a little too much for most people. If you want to watch something funny, watch Pitch Meeting with Ryan George for Tenet. It's hysterical. I watch Ryan George and Pitch Meeting. If you're not watching, you should be watching. I want to give props out because he's amazing. I think it's Screen Crush that it's on. Anyway, the point being is this. I want to see if we can adapt it where we can find a balance of what films should be in the theaters and what films should be on VOD. Because Wonder Woman going straight to VOD was a problem. Yeah. The HBO Max stuff, a lot of that stuff is on VOD. And Keanu Reeves came out this past week with The Matrix and said, I don't care where you watch it. You know how much the studios don't want to hear that? You know how much the people, they don't want to hear that? They want the theaters to become a factor. And I want the theaters to become a factor again for the right movies. If you have a movie that the bottom line is going to be better on VOD rather than theatrical release, and I don't know what the percentage of that would be, but you don't need to do that. And Black Widow is another case of that. I paid $30 for Black Widow to watch it on Disney Plus, and I'll tell you something. No, don't be sorry. I enjoyed it much more the second time around. I'm glad I saw it. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't go see it in the theaters. I didn't go see Shang-Chi in the theaters. I didn't see any of that. I saw Spider-Man in the theaters because it fit a theater. Shang-Chi really didn't. Black Widow really didn't. pick your projects that deserve to go to one or the other. I want to see those windows shrink, and I want to see the allocation correct.
Absolutely, and I like it goes back to what we said earlier in the episode. It's the world's changed, so let's try not to keep people from theaters, but let's try not to put people in the theaters for the wrong reasons as well. So I absolutely agree with that. One thing I want to see next year, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. You tipped my hand a little bit here. The Toxic Avenger remake with Peter Dinklage. Everybody's hoping Peter is Melvin. I'm hoping Peter is Toxie. I really am. Because he's a fantastic actor. One of his first films he was in with Joe Flyshaker, Trauma Legend. And Peter just came out recently and did an interview, just a really quick blurb about the film, said it's going to be great, it's going to be crazy, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And he said it's going to kind of harken to those Trauma movies that, he even said, just like you, some of them are really, really bad, but then the ones that are really good are just really, really good. And I think that gives me hope that the spirit of Toxie will be there and not just something to line Lloyd's pocketbook with.
Right.
But the spirit of Toxie that I fell in love with finding that movie on the video store shelf, the creature holding the mop. Who doesn't remember that kind of thing? I think it also could lead to a good revival of Trauma in the public eye. They've been kind of on a downhill slide since the early 2000s, I believe. I don't know what the reasoning for that is. You didn't really like their last film. I haven't seen it yet.
No. It was horrific. It was one of you were talking about what some of the worst films of the year. And for me, I really don't like doing that. But Shakespeare's Shitstorm was one of the worst films of the decade. That's how bad it was.
Well, I'm hoping that there's a Trauma revival and some public awareness, not just for my love of Trauma, but because I'm in a Trauma movie that's supposed to be coming out next year. And I would Kill Dolly Dudley 2 coming soon. Shameless self-plug. But I want people to see that. I think that's a great movie. It's an LGBTQ slasher rock musical. And I think it would fit very well, but it's not going to get the attention it deserves if Trauma's on a downslide. So let's hope Toxic Avenger remake comes out, does well, starts a Trauma renaissance, drives Jay crazy, and we go from there.
Let's see. What's something I don't want to see for next year? No, for me, you know what? I want to go kind of off of something you said, AC.
Okay.
I don't want to see, and I'm going to go with Scream 5 here.
Oh.
I'm really tired also of seeing all these films and all these sequels for no reason. There's no reason to do a Scream 5. There's none. I don't care how smart it is. I don't care. What I want to see is I want to see original content. I'm going to say till the day I die, I want to see original content. I want to see some of the filmmakers. I don't want to see another Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't need to see it. I really don't. If you guys out there couldn't deal with the one with micronaps and Haley Joe, whatever his name is, when it comes to it, not Haley Joe, I would say Haley Joe Osment. Although he would have fit really well. Yeah, really would have fit. I want to see something. I want to see something original. I don't want to see the constant remakes. And you know what? The problem with it is, AC, is it's always going to be about the pocketbook first. And for the most part, screw the fan. We want to go out there, and there's going to be that niche of fans that want to see that film. And I'll tell you something. It just every year I don't want to see it. And this will lead into my final one when we get to it on what I do want to see. And it's for a lot of different reasons. But you finish up with the next one.
So I actually am going to tie my last two together. Something I don't want to see and something I do want to see. And again, touched on it earlier. There's a giant Ultimate Collection Ghostbusters DVD, 4K Blu-ray set, I should say, coming out. I believe it's a Walmart exclusive. Comes in a ghost trap. Has the first film, the second film, Afterlife, 2 discs of special features, the Making Ghostbusters book from the 80s. I want to see that so bad, and I want to own that, but I will not buy it if it has 2016 in it. Again, because of what Paul Feig personally caused me in my life, I want to see that, and I believe it deserves to have a collection set, especially if we're wrapping up the original story. I believe once you get done with an original story, put out a box set, let it be, But again, it's all about money. I want to see the box set. I want to see special features that we've never seen before. I want to see special features more on the visual effects. They're on the Oscar shortlist for visual effects. Ghostbusters could win an Oscar this year, potentially. But in the visual effects, and you haven't seen it yet, absolutely fantastic. The puppetry work and everything, just amazing work. But if that movie's in there, it's a no-go for me. Absolutely. And I think it's for a lot of fans, it's a no-go. So that's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see his comments force the inclusion of that film.
I got to tell you something. I hate to say this, but I don't know why you're dying on that hill. especially when you have something like that. You could buy that and throw that movie out. You could throw that movie out.
I know, but it's a waste.
Why is it a waste? Because of the fact, what about all that content? What about all those films? What about the aspect of the trap? You know, that is the problem. That is one of the biggest problems with fans. You are so blinded. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of stuff too. I absolutely love. In fact, that's going to lead into what I'm looking at, because one thing I do, and I'll go back to wanting more original content, I want people to go out to more film festivals and start to migrate back into life, safely migrate back in life. I want people to go out and go to film festivals and see the next generation. But you know what I want to see next year? I want to see the X-Men pop up in the Multiverse of Madness. That's what I want to see. And I want to see, and this is really good, and again, AC, this goes back to what I brought up before. How far is Marvel willing to go with gritty content, including classifying a movie as a horror film? And according to what we've heard, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse is a horror-esque film. Let's see what happens with Sam Raimi, how much they neuter him. Because obviously it feels like right now that could happen.
Yeah,
that could happen.
That's scary.
I want to see the X-Men in the Multiverse of Madness in some form. I want to see Wolverine pop up, or I want to see Professor X pop up. I want to see the X-Men next year. That's something I want to see.
So let me ask you this. You know, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart have talked at length about, and this isn't horror, but we have a lot of crossover fans, so we're going to talk about this. They've said for a long time, Logan was the end for us. And that was a fantastic film in and of itself.
I agree.
But I think this is a way that they could bring them in and still have them be the same characters. And Logan can still be that end point. That can be that end game.
I got to tell you something. If anything Spider-Man has taught us is, all it takes is a little tweak in the character and writing in the new universe. And guess what? You'll have Hugh Jackman, maybe not as the feral Wolverine like in Logan, but definitely something to that extent. And guess what? It'll work. It'll work, folks. So don't be surprised if we see Hugh Jackman back. And he's stupid if he doesn't take the paycheck, folks. Not like he needs the money or anything like that. But you know what? It's so perfect in what's going to happen, especially with Secret Wars coming out. It's too perfect for it not to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think was that all you had? That was all I had, Jay.
I had my 5. That's my 5.
I had my 5 as well. So we got a couple more things really quick. And this next one is really, really important to us. I wanted to get to this a little bit late in the show and not lead with it. Let's get real for a second, Jay. Okay. I want to get real with some things. I've been talking a lot about my anxiety and things today. It's because I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety this time of year. And a lot of you might be experiencing the same thing as well. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety back in 2016. Part of it was caused by the Paul Feig incident, which is why I'm so adamant about that. That, I didn't say anything negative to anybody, and my life was changed because of the words of some millionaire in Hollywood. But that affected my life. A couple of years ago, my family and I were stalked and harassed and threatened every day by violent meth dealers in a meth ring here in the town that we live in. And it was a terrifying situation. I actually developed PTSD from it. Not at the same level of a soldier or anything like that. I'm not trying to compare the two, but it causes me a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, to put it lightly. And this time of year, just in general, creates extra of that. There's a certain expectation for everybody, I think. I want you guys to know there's help out there. And Jay, you've had some experiences as well. You want to share a little bit about yours?
Well, for me, it's been less about me, but more about the people around me, and the fact of how people. And I'm not going to go in as in depth as you have about it, but I will say this: that I have family members who have dealt with depression, who deal with a variety of different illnesses, and the holiday season is a rough season for many people. And I'll use maybe yesterday at my sister's during Christmas, someone who I never thought I would see at a Christmas party again, who recently suffered a stroke after being completely independent for a majority of their life, showed up. And even though it was a struggle at times, we were so blessed and so thankful to see them. But they struggle every day, and the holidays especially are very difficult. And AC, I can't even imagine what you've gone through and what your family has gone through. But you're right about the fact of help's available. And we all have dark moments. We all have dark times. And even if it's something that feels like it's uncharacteristic, you never know where it's going to lead. And that's one of the things about horror is we get to live vicariously through these characters and these actions and these stories, but we don't really touch anything like that. Well, this is real life. And this is something that really you have to focus on your mental health, especially going through the last 2 years now, even more. It's become more of a hot button than any other time I can think of in my 45 years.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm glad we're sharing about it. And throughout the year, we're going to do this a couple times. But right now, I'm going to pop up on the screen. There's going to be a list of numbers here. And if any of those numbers appeal to you, if you need to use them, use them.
Yes.
One thing we want to see in 2022 is you. We want to see you joining us in 2022. We want to see you out on the convention trail. If we're out at conventions, we want to see you at screenings. If we're out at screenings, we don't want to hear about someone who loved infamous horror that's no longer with us. You matter.
Yes, absolutely. The people out there who tune in for us or don't tune in for us, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what walk of life you've come. If you're there, help someone. See if someone's okay. At least have the foundation there to be able to say, listen, this is something that if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help, because that's the first step, is admitting and moving forward and asking for help. And that's something I've dealt with in my life over the years in different situations, and stuff obviously AC has dealt with over the years, and people that are connected to both of us. And it's really hard, because I got news for you. My favorite movie of all time, Scrooged, and I'll take it back to a little bit of a little more lighter tone, but one of the things I love about Scrooged is when he's sitting there in the sewer and he sits there and he sees, I don't remember the name, so my apologies, but he starts to really reflect on it even more when he sees him sitting there frozen with the watch in his hand, because he wouldn't offer help to someone. He said, I need help. He goes, go in there, she's looking for a sucker. And he sat there and he froze. It's a movie, but it's so true with the themes of Scrooge. It's about help. It's about doing the right thing. It's about, if you have stuff, if you're blessed and abundant, offering something, offering help, doing everything you can to make people feel better about themselves and actually helping them take responsibility and moving forward with their lives and getting the help they need.
Yeah, Robin Williams had the great quote, at least it's attributed to him all over the internet, about, he tried to make people laugh because he didn't want to make anybody feel the way he felt. And I get that. That's, AC that you see every week is, a lot of work sometimes. But I just wanted to get real for a second and share that, because there's a lot of people struggling right now through the holidays and just in general. And, Jay and I don't have the answers, but if you need us and you have no one else, reach out, please.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Let's move on from that, though. Let's end on a good note.
Absolutely. Well,
Jay, you had something you wanted to ask me this week. So what did you have that you wanted to ask me this week?
My God, AC, there's a lot of holiday stuff. One of the things, and I'm going to, honestly, folks, one of the things that I deal with on a regular basis is, as I've gotten older, my lack of a memory is starting to become more and more evident. So with everything going on, one of the things that I think I remember, AC, that I wanted to ask you was the aspect of pertaining to a horror character. Am I correct on that?
No, you were gonna ask me, because you told me this and I wrote it down. You wanted to talk to me about horror holiday specials. What property needs a holiday special?
You mean a horror icon? Which horror icon would you love to see to do a holiday special? Yeah, of course. So tell me which one you think would be great for a holiday special.
This is a little bit of a tough one, because there are Christmas type things that happen, or holiday type things that happen, or whatnot sometimes in horror, where they'll do a little promo or something. But for me, it goes back to one of my favorite horror franchises. I want to see Ash Williams in a Santa hat, and I want to see him having the most belligerent Christmas party ever, where he has to fight some deadites and kick some ass. Bring along Kelly and Pablo too. Why not?
I love it.
But I think that the Evil Dead Christmas special would be, at the end you just have a bunch of deadite heads roasting on an open fire.
I love that.
What would you pick? What would be yours?
Phantasm. I want a tall man Christmas. I want a Christmas in the mausoleum. I want to see him walking by going, ho, ho.
Or the spear's going to be on the tree.
Oh my God! Yeah, of course it'd be the tree topper, and you have all the little ones, the different variations of it as the tree and ornaments. It's freaking classic, man. And that's one of the things I came to love with the Phantasm franchise when the box set came out through Well Go USA was the fact that it's such a fan loved film, and really it's really one of the few films or franchises that really is about a DIY concept, and every film in that feels like it's something that we could do, and it feels like Don Coscarelli, it's something that he put his heart and soul in and wouldn't let anyone else touch, or at least no one touched that wasn't connected to the franchise. And you see that with the different chapters that is a part of the Phantasm franchise. But to see that, I mean, it would be amazing, and a smile from the tall man, or a wink at the end. A wink at the end, and it's just. I would love to see Phantasm.
Maybe he kills Santa, and he's the new Santa.
Well, how do we know he's not Santa, or reanimated Santa,
or a Reanimator Christmas special? While we're thinking about it,
oh my God, oh, that would be so good. You see Santa's head reanimated. Ho 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 ho.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head over to Patreon. We're going to talk about some more horror over there. What is the greatest horror movie weapon? Join us on Patreon to find out. You can find us patreon.com/infamous horror. You can find me personally online. All the social medias, AC McCrae 6363 or
Strange Man in the Film Land. You can find me there. On Twitter, it's Horror Happens RS.
There you go. Find Jay, find me, or at the facebook.com/infamous horror. Make sure you join us there. Infamous Horror Podcast. Just search us on Facebook, like us. We post things occasionally. Check it out.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
Once in a while.
Until next time, I am AC. That is Jay. This has been the Infamous Horror Podcast.